And while we're exploring some Trans-Oconee sites and sites from the Indian Wars, I thought it important to show you the Rock Eagle and Rock Hawk effigy mounds. Now, Rock Eagle is here behind me. What's so enduring about this Georgia mystery is the fact that for a very long time it was believed to be 5,000 years old. Modern assessments say it was probably made between 1,000 and 3,000 years ago, which still firmly places it before the Cherokee, before the Creek, and even before the Mississippian. They say it might be related to the Hopewell or Adena cultures, but more realistically, it represents a unique culture entirely. And this is even more interesting because this is the oldest mound in the state of Georgia outside of the mounds, the shell midden mounds that form on the coast, and this is deep within Georgia. So it shows that there were tribes of people that had a relatively high degree of complexity. I mean, the mound in the center is about 6 to 8 feet tall, and then from head to tail is 120 feet, and the wingspan is another 102 feet. The head is said to be facing east towards the rising sun, but if you look at a map, it seems to be that that's the top of the head, and the beak points almost directly south, which still represents the birth of life, the rising sun, and people think that it has to do with rebirth. And one of the reasons that I think this is fascinating is because they found cremated human remains and a spear point in the center of the mound, along with some evidence that clay had been brought in from elsewhere. So you have evidence of a larger trade network. You have evidence of a pretty high degree of cultural complexity, and it's just a fascinating and mysterious site because nothing else really forms like this around here, and it's right on the banks of the Oconee River. Nothing else except for the Rock Hawk effigy mound, which is about 30 minutes away. And only about 13 miles to the southeast of Rock Eagle, which is up in Putnam County, is Rock Hawk, which is the much smaller of the two sites, but still, these are two very unique and very similar sites found along the same river. It was built by the same cultural grouping of people. The heads are facing opposite cardinal directions, and it shows a relatively high degree of cultural complexity. Building a mound like this would distract you from things that you could be doing, like hunting or fishing, to help support your tribal unit. And what's known about this is absolutely nothing. People think it could have been built by the Hopewell or Adena, but again, all we know is that it was built by woodland peoples, and because these are the only two unique mounds of this type east of the Mississippi, look at the Indian mounds here in Etowah, Kolomoki. They go all the way down to Florida, and they go all the way up to the Great Lakes. But to have something stand out as this unique is kind of odd. Now, what people are now doing is a little bit more research into the stone structures of the southeast, and very little has been written on this, but if you look at things like the Little Mulberry Mounds or at Skull Shoals, there are some rock ruins around there, you'll start to get the idea that perhaps when the earliest settlers came in, they found structures like this and said those are the perfect size rocks to just take, put on a cart, and build a farm wall, and those settlers oftentimes didn't write things down. So there could have been a much larger archaeological complex that was related to the woodland Indian phase here in North America that is totally written out of the history books, leaving only these two mounds, the one here behind me and Rock Eagle up in Putnam County.